Hello everyone, this is our next video of PCNSA series. In this video, we are going to discuss user ID on Palo Alto Firewall, why we need a user ID and why it was introduced. So we'll discuss all points on this video. So let's start with the purpose of the user IDs and why we need a user ID. Identify the users on network and the IP address of the computer the user is logged into a group information from a LDAP directory. So when a user log to any computers, then that logging information is available on the Active Directory. It means that UAD retrieve user groups information from connected LDAP directory. So it means that firewall will pick the user's information, what who is connected and who is login. That information will pick up from the Active Directory. And the third point is in the ultimate purpose of the user ID to give you the ability to write policy, display logs, display reports using username instead of just IP address. So in the legacy way of the creating a firewall policy, we used to define with the source IP and destination IP and further the destination port. So in this way, while creating a user ID based policy, we will define the user also. We will define source, we will define the user and other things will be same like the destination and the port number will same, because let's say you have a DSCP environment and your source IP is keep getting changed and you want to stay with that particular source, user can access particular destination. How we can achieve it? We can achieve with the user ID. So we will create a policy based on the user ID. In the user section will define that this is the any user, let's say ABC user, and want to access this google.com, let's allow it. So via this user ID approach, we can create the policies and we can give the access of particular user instead of the IP address. Use username or group names and the matching criteria to authenticate profiles. So yes, username and groups, and we can use to authenticate policies, decryption policies, and DOS policies. So we have a multiple policies, authentication policies, where even the administrator who is managing the firewall, they will also using the user ID to authenticate their Palo Alto firewall. So to access the Palo Alto firewall, we have a one way. In the first video of authentication profile, I told you that we can use the local authentication, we can use the LDAP authentication. So on the LDAP authentication, we can use that user ID to authenticate particular group of a particular group from LDAP can access the firewall, and this is related to the firewall management. And let's say if any users, normal users, we want to give the access to certain website, you can also give that using the based on the user ID, or you can use their user IDs to create the policies. So let's further understand the user ID. So user ID technology enables our next generation firewall to identify users in all location, no matter whether the device type and operating system. So next generation firewall use to user ID to identify the all users in all location, no matter that what device type they are using. The visibility of the activity. So in the ACC tab on the Palo Alto, you will able to verify the logs that which user is accessing what. So it is provide the better way of to understand the network and better way to understand understand and monitor the user activities also. And the safely enables application by aligning usage with the business requirement. So this is also fine. So if you see this policy, this is the name of the policy, this is the tag, and this is the type zones, and here we have that users. So in this policy, if you say addresses are any, it means that any source IP address can communicate with this address. Okay, any addresses. So what is policy set, but the user is there, so only this user groups can access to this, put this destination, any destination with the web browsing. Other than that they will not access it. So this is the, and the source IP, it remain change, like it's keep changing. In the second way they have also giving this lab users access with that any port, any application and any desk. In the third rule it is also for the user. So in the legacy way of creating policy we are using the source IP address, and this way we will use the user and groups to create a firewall policy. So let's understand more that previous and before user ID and after user ID. Let's say this is the example. So here anyone with the IP address is accessing Facebook chat. Using IP address to identify users is insufficient, cannot determine with accurate IP addresses range. So based on the IP address we cannot identify that who is using that Facebook chat. So to solve this problem, user ID comes. Now the Joy contractor is accessing Facebook chat. So user ID enables security teams to define a policy rules on the firewall, safely enable applications and control access based on the user and group. So as I told you just a minute ago, that this is enabled. We have options to create a firewall policy based on the user ID, and this is the benefit of the user ID, that we can identify this Joy contractor is accessing the Facebook chat. Earlier this was not there. So now that we'll see on the user ID main function. Before user based and group based policy rules can be created on the firewall, requires a list of all available users and their corresponding group mapping. The firewall uses the group mapping to collect this information. So before we create a firewall policy based on the user ID, we need a particular user and group information available on the firewall, so that the firewall know that this is ABC user and belongings to this XYZ group. So that information should be available. So how this is going, let's understand. Group mapping. Learn groups names and members from the LDAP. So it means that the user ID and that groups will comes from the LDAP to the firewall. That information firewall will learn. And the second way, network traffic IP address and username. So associate IP address with the username. So every username is having their own IP address. Let's say ABC is user and they definitely 1111. So and then again another user will come, let's say A again, then they will associate the new IP address. So these mapping firewall will make to identify the users. So it may possible that this is for the Bob and this is for the John. So from the firewall perspective, they will keep this information maintained to identify that what is the IP addresses and with respective to the username. So these two functions are required. The first function to create a user and group information from the LDAP. Second thing, the network traffic mapping of the user ID based on user ID with the IP address. Two information is there. So every user is mapped with their unique IP address. So now let's see the user ID components what we have. So first is the Palo Alto network firewall. Second is the PAN-OS integrated agent. And the third is the Windows based agent. So Palo Alto firewalls, who is mapping the IP address to username, map users name to group name. So that I just show you that these two information we receive from the LDAP. And the second one is the PAN-OS integrated agent. So basically this runs on the firewall. We don't need to explicitly install any integrated agent, and this will be the collect IP address to username information from the from your domain controls it. And the third one is the Windows based agent, user ID agent. So this we need to install on the domain controller, to collect the information who is logging to their computers and what is the assigned IP address, and that information will send to the Palo Alto firewall to maintain that user ID with the respective IP address. Collect the IP address to username information so that agent will collect and send to the firewall. And third, the Palo Alto network agents. This is the citric-based solution. Collect use IP and port number to user information sent to the firewall. So these are the components required to run the user ID on the Palo Alto. So first is the Palo Alto who is taking the user ID and group information and mapping the users with respective IP addresses. Second is the integrated PAN-OS agent will runs on the Palo Alto, will take the logging information from the domain controllers. And third is the Windows based agent which runs on the Active Directory domain services servers and collect the information of the user who is logging with the respective IP address and send the information to the Palo Alto firewall. And third in the Palo Alto network terminal services agent. So this is the 4 agents for the user ID components. And let's move the other topics. This is the form of the user ID agent. So this is the capability. In the first, this this is applied. So include with PAN-OS software. Yes, PAN-OS integrated is applicable with the PAN-OS software and Windows is not. Available to download from Palo Alto networks, can be installed or more Windows. Yes, this is Windows based agent. It is available on Palo Alto network websites to download and install it as per the requirement. A firewall can communicate with the both agent type. Yes, firewall can communicate with the both agent types. Can monitor up to 100 domain controllers. Yes, in the both case integrated agent and Windows agent, they can communicate up to 100 domain controllers. Can monitor user and domains from a single Active Directory. Yes, in the both case it is applicable that they can monitor on the single domain controllers on the Active Directory. And the design for the small and mid size. Yes, this PAN-OS integrated agent is suitable for the small side. Can handle larger environment, and that is suitable for the Windows based agents. So let's more understand the user ID agents. Integrated agent versus the Windows based agent. So the Windows based agents and PAN-OS integrated agent perform the same basic task, but they have a different underlying communication. So both PAN-OS integrated and in Windows based agent, they will do the same kind of task, but the communication on the both cases is different. So in the case of Windows based agent, they are using Microsoft RPC, which requires full Windows security logs to be sent to the agent, where they are filtered with the relative user ID information. So this is the protocol where Windows based agent work, and they will collect the all Windows security logs, but they have to filter only for the user ID information. The PAN-OS integrated agents uses Windows Management Instrument WMI or WinRM, which enables the agent to retrieve the user ID information from Windows security log. So the mechanism is the same, but the underlying protocol is different. So in case of integrated PAN-OS, they are using WMI and WinRM to collect the information from the Windows domain controllers and take it in the firewall. So let's move to the other slide. So in the Windows based agent, they are also taking the full log, and then they will filter it by with user ID logs and forward to the firewall. And then in the case of integrated, they just need a IP address with IP address and user ID who is logging to the systems. That information will send to the firewall. Let's say, and in the both scenario, more appropriate for the reading local logs, and this more appropriate for the reading remote logs. For remote side, the user use the integrated agent or Windows based agent on the site. So yeah, this is very much fine that if you have a remote site, then definitely you will install that Windows based client or agents. So at the end, that this both in Windows based and PAN-OS integrated base agents, the primary functionality to collect the user ID information with the IP address